Hi, my name is Emma Reed. I'm a math teacher. I teach 8th grade math. My school is in the Bronx, New York. I am going to talk to you today about a routine that you may or may not have tried before called Which One Doesn't Belong. So my favorite thing about this routine is that there is not just one right answer. So you might be used to going into math class with a little bit more anxiety than other classes because you're worried about whether you're correct or incorrect. But the reason why we do Which One Doesn't Belong is to remind you that mathematicians are strong mathematicians because they practice their pattern finding and their thinking and explaining their thinking to other people, not because they get the right answer every time. And so, Which One Doesn't Belong does not have a correct answer, but it does have kind of a procedure that you can follow to make sure that you are clarifying your thinking for yourself and for your audience, whoever you're talking to or writing to. So the first thing we're going to do is practice Which One Doesn't Belong with something that does not look like math necessarily when you first look at it. So you're going to look at the 4 images and we're going to follow these steps that I recommend for doing a successful Which One Doesn't Belong, which you'll usually find at the beginning of your math lessons as your warm-up, but your teacher might use them at a different point in the lesson. And either way, this procedure should help you know what to do and what's expected of you for that routine. So I'm going to think aloud about what I'm seeing here, but if you want to try it on your own first, you can pause the video and think through the bullet points I have on the right before you hear me do it. Otherwise, I'm going to start my example by making my thinking visible to you now. So the first thing that I notice when I look at these images is the kind of like circle shape of the cookie and the cake. And then I also notice that the basketball is a little different. It's a sphere. And then the brownie is a totally different shape. It looks like a rectangle to me. And I went straight to shapes first, but then I look at it a little bit more and I realize, okay, well, we can eat the brownie, the cake, and the cookie, but I wouldn't want to eat a basketball. So I paused, and that's me just noticing, kind of brainstorming what I see. And then I found some similarities and some differences. So there's a similarity between the cookie, the cake, and the brownie in that we can eat them all. And there's a similarity to me in the shape of the cookie, the cake, and the basketball. So even though one's a circle, one's a cylinder, and one's a sphere, they all have this kind of circle aspect to them that stands out to me. But at the end of the day, what stands out the most is that I would not want to eat a basketball, and I would be happy to eat the rest. So I'm not going to have very much math language to describe it. You will when you have a math Which One Doesn't Belong. But now I'm going to clearly describe, I think that the basketball does not belong because I could eat the cookie, the brownie, or the cake, but I would not want to eat a basketball. And you can see how I described what all the rest of the options had in common to help support why my choice does not belong with them. And that's something you want to do too. And let's say I finished my answer way before the teacher is done with the warm-up, and I have some more time before we're going to move on in the lesson. What I encourage you to do is then turn your mind to a different option and come up with a justification for why that doesn't belong. Because since there is no one right answer, you can practice thinking of different reasons that make each of the options stand out. So if I'm done with my reasoning about not wanting to eat the basketball, I could look at the brownie and be like, okay, that's a rectangular prism, which does not have any aspect of a circle involved in it. So it's different and it doesn't belong since the sphere or the basketball, the circle or the cookie, and the cylinder or the cake all have circles involved in their shape. And that's something you can practice writing or just in your mind. And that's something that kind of builds our mathematician muscle. So now let's try a math Which One Doesn't Belong. and then you'll be ready to do any which one doesn't belong that comes up in class. So now let's try out a which one doesn't belong with some math content. So right now my students are learning about exponents and how to perform operations with numbers in exponential form. You might have already done this unit, you might have not done this unit yet, and this might look completely confusing to you. The nice thing about which one doesn't belong is that you can successfully complete your warm-up whether you understand the math yet or not. And then as your teacher goes over the different responses that different students had, you're going to listen for new math language that you can use and for new ideas that you might not know yet. So you are still going to pause and notice everything there is to notice about what you see, no matter your level of comfort with the math that you're looking at. So if all you notice the first time you look at this is that there are some big numbers and there are some small numbers, then that's a place for you to start from, and you should still find some similarities and differences to talk about and decide what stands out to you the most, whether you're comfortable with the math yet or not. So the last thing we're going to do together in this video is think about what kind of successful answer could we give if we're still learning about how to do operations with exponents. So I'm still going to be noticing a lot of different things that I see here. So I see in the green box there are parentheses. I see a lot of different 4s and 5s and 3s. Sometimes the 4 is the big number, sometimes the 3 is the big number. And as you go into this unit, you'll know that those are called the base and that the smaller number is called the exponent. But if you are not sure about the math language yet, what you should do is decide what stands out the most. So you might decide that what stands out to you the most is that there's a negative number in the blue section. So let's say I'm a student who notices the negative number. I don't really remember what it means, but that's the thing that's most different. So once I know that that stands out to me the most, I need to say what the rest of those numbers have in common that makes it stand out. So I would say 4 to the negative third power times 4 to the fifth power stands out the most because there is a negative number, whereas in the other boxes I only see positive numbers. And then if I'm a student who doesn't remember what that little number is called, when we go over the answer choices and my teacher is talking about what different students said or another student is sharing, I'm going to listen for the vocabulary to go along with that number. So as other people share, someone else might call that number the exponent. And then I can add that into my answer, right? I already said that in the blue box, what stands out to me is that there's a negative number. And as I'm listening to my teacher and my other peers go over that warm-up, I'm going to adjust my answer. So I say what stands out to me the most is that the blue box is the only one with a negative exponent, and the rest of the boxes show only positive exponents. So I hope that this helps you when you run into a which one doesn't belong in the future. Make sure you pause and notice, you find similarities and differences, you decide what stands out the most, and then either as you're giving your answer or after you hear from your peers, think about what can I describe with math language so that I'm practicing that skill as well.